Hello, it is 1 o'clock Central Time. My name is Marcos Lopez Carlson, and today we are going to be doing showing you the Databank Basics, and there will be time for a Q&A at the end. It looks like I have a number of people online. Not sure if everybody is in and able to see the screen and hear my audio yet. If somebody could please let me know whether or not they are able to see my screen and hear my audio, that would be great. Either say something through your computer or phone audio, or just enter something into the chat window and let me know that you are receiving this broadcast. Is anyone able to hear me or see what is being shared? Oh, all right. Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm glad to hear. Oh, you're both there. Perfect. Sounds really good. I'm glad to hear you two are there. And you're both new. That's excellent. All right. So let's get started right away. And today, what we're going to be doing is covering the core functionality of the data bank. Now, there's a lot of different parts to the data bank, a lot of different pieces. Your organization may have different settings and different modules, different components enabled. But what we're going to be talking about today is something that is universal across the system, so everybody will have these same functions. And what we're really going to be talking about is member records, the records of individuals in your databank, and then how to query, how to discover those records, how to find them, and how to export them and do different things with those records. So that's really the focus of what we're going to be talking about today. Now, the first thing I want to do when I start with a training, especially a basics training like this, so most people are going to be fairly new to the data bank, is I would like to point out some of the resources that we have available to you to find out more and get the help that you need while you are using your data bank, and ways to discover new information and ways to use it. So what I'm going to point out here is the help menu. Every one of you in your data bank is going to have a help menu available. And the help menu has a number of features that I would like to point out to you. First off, we have our user guides. The user guides, if you would scroll over to one of these will present you with a downloadable PDF. That is something that you can download to your own local machine. If some people really like to have a local manual so that you can do searches through the PDFs, etc., and like to have a local copy. The manuals in here are local copies that you can download and that you can use to find and discover how to use your databank. We do have one for Databank, the basic, for our Power Mail and our meetings and events tool. We also have one for advocacy. This is our demo site, so sometimes things don't get pushed out to it. So that's one of the reasons that the advocacy manual is not visible. And we do not at the moment have a fundraising manual. The problem is we have most of that information is available on our website, on our support center, which I will show you. We don't have a fundraising manual because honestly, we were kept upgrading it and it was getting more and more behind to the point where it's actually just no longer an accurate manual. One of the big projects of this summer is going to be updating that fundraising manual, so you will have a new manual available in the next few months. The next thing I'd like to point out to you is the support center. So our support center is our online knowledge base. This is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to anyone who is a client of the data bank. This is broken up by different parts and different pieces of our system. Oops. And you can find different parts and different things in here. They will include step-by-step. Oh, I'm on the FAQ. Oops. Oh, that's why. You do have to be a registered user to utilize the support center, and we'll discuss how to do that. You can create an account here at Zendesk. All you have to do is create an account. We don't need to check it. And okay, somebody, let's see, I think it's this one. Okay. All right. You will be able to go through this and it'll show you screen ups. Somebody is on the phone. Could this person please mute themselves? I am unable to mute this attendee for some reason. I don't have a name because they haven't actually filled that.
Sorry, it's Yvette. I'll mute right now. Sorry
Oh,
about
thank
that.
you so much, Yvette. I really appreciate that.
Okay, thanks.
All right. So as you can see, it's a step-by-step tutorials with screenshots, which will show you what's going on. Okay. The other two things I want to point to you are the free training sign up. Free training sign up is what you have signed up for today. You can always find our upcoming trainings and upcoming webinars on our website, and you can see the new things that we do have on the way. And again, that is free for anyone who is a member, to anyone who works or belongs to a Databank client. And then finally, if you're unable to find what you're looking for in our user guides, you've signed up for the trainings, you've looked on the support center, and you're still having trouble solving an issue, finding the answer that you're looking for, or just need help or directions on how to do something, you can submit a support request. When you click through to here, you will choose the type of request, the topic. If, for instance, the topic is a form or one of our Power Mail issues, you can actually tell us exactly which one is the issue that you are having. The more detail we receive for a support request, the better it is for us. The easier it is for us to identify the problem or the solution that you need, and to provide an answer to you in a timely manner. Again, the more information we have, the easier it is for us to get into that. There's really no such thing as too much detail when submitting a support request. Here you're going to put in your email and your name. Once you have submitted a support ticket, our support platform will send a confirmation to your email. Once that email has been confirmed, you will be in this pull down, so you can just pull down your name and it will auto-populate your email and name. That is one way in order to get your a setup to log into our support center. The other way is to click up here. Let's see, where's the sign out? There it is. The other way is actually on our support center to sign up and just create a new new to the Databank sign up support center. You can sign up down here, or you can sign in with Twitter, Facebook, or Google. As you're filling in your request, if you put, there is a space for phone. Everyone, let's see, everyone who's online right now, all of your organizations do have full access to our phone support. If you would like us to give you a call, please enter a phone number and include in the request that you would like a phone call. We will then respond and schedule a time to make a phone call and work through the issue that you are having. Otherwise, support tickets will be handled over email. If this is affecting any individual records, like you have a specific record, like, John Smith's record is not showing up accurately, there is a problem with it, etc., entering in the member record numbers or names is very beneficial. Again, if the more information we have, the easier it is for us to get to the source of the problem you are having and to find a solution in a timely manner. All right. So that is the brief tour of our help menu. Are there any questions about the support and resources that we offer that people have before I move on? All right. Now the most of these features I am going to walk through. I'm just going to kind of skim most of these. The setup, the advocacy, meetings, fundraiser communications, and really what I'm going to be focusing on are member and search today. So the very first thing I'm going to do is go to this members bar. So this gives you the sub menu of the different things that you can do with membership. And that includes creating a new member record, eliminate, searching them, or not searching them, creating a new member record, identifying the ones you have, tagging, etc., downloading said records. So the very first thing I'm going to do is create a new record. And I do that by going to members and clicking add member. Every single record that we have offers the exact same fields. So there are some parts of the fields that you will see that are customized per individual organization, and the rest of that are universal across the data bank. One thing, however, is that we do not have different um, data entry forms for individuals versus organizations. Individuals and organizations both have the same type of data entry. The identification of whether or not it's an individual or an organization is done based upon which fields are populated. And I will demonstrate that after I've created this record. Any of these fields left blank will not have any space on the record, and we'll show that when we're done. Now I'm going to scroll down just a little bit as I enter this address. You see as I'm entering this address that it is automatically populating with address information. This is coming, this information is being pulled directly from United States Postal Service. So this is standardizing addresses to USPS standards. When that pull down was coming, I could have just selected that, and it would have filled in and populated all of this information in the correct format, but I wanted to demonstrate what happens when I have something in a non-standardized format. Now, when I have the address, the city, and the state filled, when I go to zip code, it will actually automatically adjust that to the CAS standards. It provides a 9-digit zip code, and you'll see it changed Washington, which was spelled out Avenue, North, Suite 500. All of that was spelled out. It has now been truncated to match the USPS standards. This is a mail deliverability standard, so it has a lot of benefits. One of the big benefits of it is it makes queries easier. When we have text fields, such as a city, this is a text field, which means people can enter in anything. Hopefully they're entering where they live. Now, we are located here in Minneapolis, which means across the Mississippi River is our twin city of St. Paul. Now, when I started working at the data bank, we did not have the address verification on there. So if I was going to be searching for records in St. Paul, I had to search for SAINT Paul, ST dot Paul, and ST space Paul. It all depended on how people physically typed in their address. Now that we have data standardization, it always goes in as no matter what somebody enters. If they enter it through a web form, which is like your newsletter sign up form or a donation form. If somebody is manually entering it in the back end, as in a staff member or a volunteer is doing data entry, no matter how they spell or write St. Paul, it will adjust to SAINT space Paul. So that's a really, really nice feature that makes the querying data a lot more reliable. When text fields are standardized, then you are always having the same criteria to search for, which makes your queries more reliable. The only place, and I will mention this because I see that there are that we do have some clients who deal with that have advocacy functionality. One potential problem is that the United States Postal Service cares about zip codes and cares about mail. That's what they care about. They do not care about like congressional districts. They don't care about census information. They care about delivering mail. And do not at all take that as a critique of the US postal system. I think it's absolutely amazing that for less than 50 cents, I can write up something on a piece of paper and somebody comes to my house and will take it to anywhere else in the continental United States and deliver it to someone else's door for 50 cents. That is absolutely amazing to me. But when you are working with advocacy, online advocacy, what is most important is congressional and census information. So what can happen with rural clients and with rural constituents is, for instance, somebody lives on the edge of the county. Now, their county seat is probably, it could be a good 30, 40 miles away for the county seat. The county next to them, that county seat is 5 miles away. The United States Postal Service is delivering based on the closest population center. They will be delivering from that other county, which means that when they do address standardization, they will correct it to an incorrect county and address, which will interfere with some of the online advocacy because that is based upon census data. I'm letting you know this so that if it does become a problem and if there is an issue with that, it's a pretty far outlier, but I want people to be forewarned that if it does actually come up, please let us know by submitting a support request, and we can disable the auto suggestion or the address standardization. We can turn off functionality, so we can kind of do a little bit of tweaking on that so that it does not overwrite records with incorrect congressional information. It's not a large problem, but there is some outliers where it happens. And again, that just is because of a mismatch of needs between the United States Postal Service and the Census, United States Census. They just have different needs and different requirements. Okay, so moving on to some of our other fields, home phone. Notice as I'm entering these in, I'm using different fields. This one has dots in it. This one has dashes in it. And for mobile, I don't have any space. Does that matter? Because remember, I just talked about entering into text fields, that it becomes difficult to query text fields. Everything has to match. With phone numbers, it doesn't matter what format you put the phone number in. When we do a query of phone numbers, we strip out any formatting and we search without any formatting. So for legibility in your organization, you might use dots, you might use hyphens. I mean, you might put parentheses around the zip code. Whatever. It doesn't actually matter or affect the queries at all. Under mobile phone, we do have a space for provider. This is where you can choose the cell phone provider of the mobile of the client, of the individual that you are entering. The reason we ask for mobile provider is we do have the capacity or the capability of sending text messages to your members. The way that we do that is we use a protocol called SMTP, Simple Mail Terminal Protocol, which what we're doing is we are sending an email to this individual. So we are sending an email to their phone number And that's why we need to know their email, their provider, because the formatting changes depending upon the provider. So it's a way to send a text message, and it utilizes the bulk email program PowerMail that is already built into your databank. Now, we did, you might wonder, why don't we have short codes? Short codes are those ones where you text, text 543, text subscribe to 17525, and then they become subscribed to your newsletters. The reason is that short codes scale very poorly. Short codes are generally very cheap and quite affordable for the first few hundred, but once you start hitting the 500, 1,000, 5,000 mark, the short codes get incredibly expensive incredibly quickly. And one thing that studies have shown is that if you're choosing to use text message as an engagement platform, that more frequent messages are required. Otherwise, people are like, who are you and why are you texting me? I can't even remember this. It tends to be a more engaging and connecting platform. But for that reason, we are using SMTP just because it was the most practical solution for our clients. All right. Now through website, everything above here, there was a question, we have to fill the provider in? Can you leave it blank? Absolutely. You can absolutely leave it blank. There is no need for the provider. The only reason we have that space is if you choose to use text messaging as a broadcast method to your constituents. So you can choose to have people can choose to opt in for text messages. If they choose to opt in for text messages, you do need to gather their provider information. If all you're doing is calling them and you just want a phone number on record, there's absolutely no need for the provider. Great question. Thank you for asking. Okay, so everything from here, website on up, all of this stuff is standard in every single database. Now, the next few sections are going to be, these next few fields are going to be examples of different kind of custom inputs. So your organization, these fields will look different and will be configured to match your needs and will be configured to match the kind of data you are gathering. We have these here just to give an example of the different kinds of inputs to help you be more aware of the different functions and why we have different inputs available. Custom text input is what we've been doing along here. This would just be, it's a text input. It can take up to 256 characters and it's anything they write in. The advantage of a text input is it is incredibly variable. They can put in anything. So you can ask open-ended questions, any kind of information where people you just want to gather information, but you don't necessarily need to query it. This is where you put information like, what is this person's parents' name? What do they do here? So that when you call them, you have information you can talk to them about, but it's information that when you're looking at their record, you can access that information. But text fields are not good for queries because of the fact that they can be anything. Queries require, you require a certain amount of standardization for queries, so text inputs are not the best. Another thing you can have is just the standard single checkbox. Check yay, check no. When there are no labels on the checkbox and it's just a single, like a binary, it does fill in that. So it says custom checkbox. When this is marked as populated, it'll check off, it'll be marked, the data is a 1. If it's unpopulated, the data is a 0. And we can see a little bit of that when I'm done, and I'll show you what this looks like. A custom dropdown is basically, it's often called a selection list or a pick list. These are the two different terms people use to refer to this. The selection list is a list of things that people can choose. The thing with the drop downs is they can only choose one. So it's really great when you want them, they can have one option and only one option. A drop down is your best option for that kind of feature. The next are these multi-select, which is by hitting either the control or on a PC or command on a Mac allows you to select multiple options. The advantage of this is it's a much smaller space and a cleaner space than, for instance, these checkboxes. If you had 30 things listed on the multi-select, it can get a very long list, so having the multi-select makes it easier to select multiple things without taking up a large chunk of real estate. The disadvantage of the multi-select, and one of the reasons I generally, in the last year, have started recommending against them, depending on the use case, but for most cases, they're not the best. They're not the best option, is because they don't play well with touchscreens. If this is something that's only being used internally, it's only going to be office workers, somebody at a computer filling it out, then having a multi-selection is a great option for for a long variable list. But if there are people who are going to be filling out forms online, interacting with your databank that way, like they got an email, they click through their email, and then they're just filling out a bunch of options online. If you are using a touchscreen device, multi-selects are a very poor option. And being that probably, a good half of individuals are now approaching your website, your web forms, and your emails through mobile devices, multi-selects are not the best option if it's going to be something, if the parts of this are going to be customer or client facing, or like your constituent facing. Checkboxes. Checkboxes, when they have labels, the advantage is you can select a number of them. They function more or less the exact same as this multi-select tab, except whereas this one will put them inside of a defined boundary, this just keeps adding lists. You can see how this could get very, very long if we had 30 or 40 individual options on there. Now the next set of fields are a very special kind of fields, the flags, flag 1 through 5. Flags are a useful little field, but they do have some limitations. The main limitation of a flag is it can only carry 2 characters of data. So anything you put in a flag can only carry 2 characters of data. Anything more than that will be truncated. A big advantage of a flag, which I will demonstrate when we are done with this a little bit later in the training, is that it's really useful for marking temporary tags on records. So we use flag fields as a way to make a temporary mark, and there's some very useful benefits to that. Now there are amount fields. An amount field can only take a numerical field and will always display numbers to the 2 decimals. This is an ID field if you are using another system, if you are using a VAN system and you need to sync up with the DWIDs or using any other sort of database. This is where this field is beneficial for syncing up the 2 and for knowing which record is on which. There are date fields. This says join and expiration date. Some people do use them for like birth dates and other kind of information. The default tends to be expiration and join dates. Date fields, a calendar can pop up. It always has to be in the month, date, and then 4-year format. Now, the advantage of having dedicated number fields and dedicated date fields is it expands the Boolean preferences. That's just meaning the queries, like how can I search? With numbers, you can search for greater thans, less thans, equal tos. With date fields, you can search date times, like I want before this date and after this date, or the last 12 months, the next 30 days. So you can do dynamic searches based on date fields as well. Now these final fields are all standard in every database. Salutation 1 and 2, very useful if, for instance, there's it's a couple different people, Marcos and Jamie. So you want salutation to be the tester family, and you want salutation to be, because I'm actually a reverend, to be the Reverend tester. So you can add titles and custom names of that. Useful when you're doing for merge fields, for downloads, for being able to have very specific syntax when you are doing communications. Notes fields, they're very useful. They're always text fields and they display information prominently on the record. An advantage of the kind of information people usually put in note fields would be, for instance, even though this person's name is Bob, he always likes to go by Robbie, or he has a dog named Buster, things of that nature. The kind of information that you want to recall when you have that member's record up and you're giving them a call or you're sending them an email, but it's the kind of thing you want to recall when you're about to communicate with them directly. Source is an indication of how they entered your databank. If they filled out a web form, the name of that form will be the source. If somebody entered them, their name will be in there. If you did a mass upload, the name of the upload will be in there as well. So source is the way that you record how they entered your databank. Dupe group, I always want to point out, is a system field. You won't really ever use this. It does come in play when we are doing duplicate searches. The reality is every single database in the world has duplicates. The reason is unless you know who the person is, you can't say that it's the same as somebody else. So we get around a few of the ways that we can help eliminate duplicates, and we'll cover this during the Power Mail training in 2 weeks, is by using personalized form links. The form links create a personalized link where we know who the person is. So when they're sending them a link in their email, they can click through and it will populate their data already. Other than that, we do that based on data point matching. If somebody's already in your database and then so they just came to your website and started filling out one of your forms again, we just have to match on data points. And it's weighed on different things. Email address is the most important and the highest, heaviest weighed data points. Other important ones are address, phone number, zip code, things like that are important data points. Name is one of the least reliable data points for uniqueness. Looking at the 6 people that are registered for today's training, 2 of those people I know have duplicate. I know 2 people with the same name. My name is Marcos Lopez. I know many Marcos Lopez's. I've personally met about 4 of them. So name is a poor indicator of uniqueness, and we do not go on name alone as a way to verify identity. Now, because of that, these reasons, and no other database does either. Like name is just not a good enough data point for identity. Email actually is one of the best these days. So, and mobile phone is a great one too, because those are things that people tend to have unique and are not shared. So we do our best to match records, but if we can't with enough certainty say that this record already exists, we will by default create a new record. So, and every other database does this too. This is just part of database, just the way that they function. And so there is I recommend making searches for duplicates a regular part of your database maintenance. It's not something you need to do daily or anything like that, but many of our clients will do it on a weekly or monthly basis, depending upon the volume of new clients you have coming in. It's just a good idea to make it a part of your just your regular cleanup and routine maintenance of your database. It's just a part of your regular schedule. Okay. Any questions about these fields before I move on to some of the more system-generated aspects? Nope. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to show you are these contact preferences. Contact preferences are, these are by default always set to OK. Every one of them, email, postal mail, and phone, all of them set to OK when you create a new record. We are assuming that there's somebody you can connect and contact. That's why they're in your record. With email, because we do have our own email platform integrated into the databank, there is a lot of interaction between the behavior of the individual that it changes the different preferences they have. The preferences available are okay, always okay, unsubscribed, and bad email. Now, when you are sending out Power Mail or issues using Power Mail, we know what's happening and we know who it's attributed to. We know when they open the email, we can give you the click-through tracking. You can get all of that information within the contact record of your member. Now, when if somebody gets a soft bounce is we were unable to deliver that email. We don't know why. Something happened and it just didn't deliver right. That's considered a soft bounce. After 3 soft bounces in a row, we will switch the email to bad email. Now, one of the problems is that Google autoresponders, the Gmail vacation autoresponders, trigger a soft bounce. So after, if somebody's out of town for like, a month, or they're on vacation and they have their vacation responder, 3 soft bounces, it's going to say, hey, they're not a solid email anymore. It's going to say bad email. But if somebody later opens up any one of those emails that triggered the soft bounce, we will switch it back to okay. We're like, oh, never mind. I guess they're actually okay. I wish Gmail wasn't so bad about giving that feedback loop, but it's something that everybody in this industry complains about. Gmail gives very bad feedback. Most other clients won't give you as bad of feedback. If we get a bounce back that email address does not exist, and that's called a hard bounce, that it's not delivered, it does not exist, we will automatically switch to bad email. If somebody receives your emails, every email going out has an unsubscribe link, has a way to edit their preferences. This is in compliance with the CAN-SPAM Act of 2003. They can check, I want to unsubscribe from all email. If they do that, it will switch to unsubscribed, and you will not be able to send them an email through your system. The other one is okay, always okay. This is useful if, for instance, there's a board member or a major donor, somebody you communicate with regularly who wants to get your stuff, and for some reason they keep getting soft bounces and it keeps getting switched to bad email. Then you can kind of go in with the always okay. Sometimes firewalls will do that, especially government firewalls can be pretty bad, and even though the email is getting delivered, it's still sending a soft bounce notification. The USDA, for instance, is terrible at this. If this is something that is happening, you can switch to always okay. Be forewarned, though, that is like it's a hammer. It's not a scalpel, it's a hammer. So it's a pretty big tool to use. So use that sparingly. Postal mail, okay, do not mail bad address. These you do need to manually adjust. Phone, okay, do not call bad phone number. You need to manually adjust those as well. All right, and now I'm going to hit save. These will be automatically populated when I create this record. All right. Nope, it didn't get automatically populated. That's because I do not actually have that. I forgot I turned that off. So there is a setting that will automatically populate all the legislative districting in below there. I'd actually turned that off on a prior demo and just realized that I never turned it back on. So it will normally be populating there. Okay, so now we're looking at this record. This is where all of that like identifiable information is up here. Their phone number, email, web, site, work title. Work and address info is here, and then all of your that custom information is going to be on the right. Now, one thing I did mention is that we use the same kind of records for data entry. So if I delete a name and only have a company field, now you're going to see the name of the record is Databank GBC. So that's how you differentiate between an individual and an organizational record, is whether or not the names are populated. If there is no name, but there is a company field populated, it is an organization, not an individual. If I put a name back in there, you'll see that it is turned back into an individual, as you will. At any point, you can delete a record. If I go to Edit, And you can edit by just clicking on the name. I'm going to scroll down. I can delete this record by clicking down on the left, and I can duplicate it by hitting this duplication form. Delete is always on the bottom left. Save is always on the top and bottom right. And this is not just for member records. This is pretty much across the board within the databank. Now, some things I do want to point along here are these different fields. History is sort of the snapshot of the record. Contributions is where you're going to have their individual contributions. Contacts is the contact notes that you have had, the contact history. You can always create a new contact record. The contact records will be populated automatically by PowerMail and by interacting with your web forms. But say you called somebody, you would just click the plus icon, which you will see throughout the databank. The plus icon is kind of a universal for do another of what I just did. And you can create a new contact record. Because, for instance, a phone call isn't going to be recorded there, so you would want to enter them. Enter a note, and now you can see there is a record of the note down here. If there are a record with a lot of different ones, you can actually filter out the individual contact types. This record has none in there, so it's okay. Now, meetings, major donor, custom tables, these are all going to be based upon the different modules and different add-ons that you have available and customizations that you have in your data bank, but each of them corresponds to different data tables. Ones I do want to point are subscriptions. We do have subscription management, so individuals can pick and choose which subscriptions they want to receive and publications they want. And relationships. You can create relationships between different records. To create a relationship, I've got, let's see, for an existing member, I'm going to assume that the data bank is in here. There's individuals. There's a whole lot of Marcos testers in here. Okay, I will choose this one. And so I can relate these two records. We will say, for instance, that they are a householded relationship. Okay, and so now I've created a relationship between these two different records. So it's a way to, do householding, and there's a little more functionality that can be explored, but we won't have time to cover that today. So that's what it is to create and have a member record. Now I'm going to talk about queries. So a query is the backbone of your database. That is, the records are like the building blocks, and the query is the frame that holds it together and allows you to do things with a database. It's all about building a query. Now, all of these different data points, for instance, in contributions, there's all this contribution information that can be, you can see here is recorded. There's, different contact histories. Here's some good contact histories. All sorts of different things going on in here that every one of these pieces of data can be queried. So you can do that by selecting the different ones. Am I searching their personal information, contribution history, their contacts, their relationships, meetings attended, subscriptions, etc. Any of your tables you can search. I am only going to be doing personal. Oh, I will quickly show Easy Query. Easy Query is a very quick way when you know somebody's name. Give me everybody. I know. I just want to have Marcos Tesser be my query result. Okay, perfect. That's who I have now. Now, the rest of it, I'm going to build a more multi-step query. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to personal, and I'm going to do a new query. And I'm going to walk through each of these as I go through and kind of explain what each of them does. So what I'm trying to do today is I'm going to send a letter to every business in Minneapolis and St. Paul. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find every record in Minneapolis. I go to city and I enter Minneapolis. I hit find. Okay, I now have 139 records of 17,000. Now the next thing I want to do is include St. Paul. So I am going to add to my current query. Go to city again, and again, this is where I can type S-A-I-N-T, Paul, find. All right, so now I have 196 records. Search, go to personal. Now all of these I want to make sure I have addresses. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to filter. Filter is where I am from my current selection. Every step of a query, the result is your selection. From my existing selection, what I want to do is filter down to people who match this next step. So here I want people whose address is not null. What that means is there's two data fields, null and not null. Null means there is no data, is not null means there is data. So these are people who have addresses filled out because the address is not null. And I can find, brings me to 192. Do another step. And one thing I do want to point out, you can keep going down and search every single piece of data that is here in your database, but, at the very bottom, there's a find button. But no matter where I am in here as a personal workflow, I like to scroll all the way up when I hit find and make sure I'm not still on new. The reason is I'd hate to be, 14, 15 steps into a long search query and then suddenly forget and have new as my selection, which then means that I have to start over. So as a personal habit, I scroll to the top to double check my Venn diagram. You can also click the remember settings, and it will just keep whatever your most recent one was at. So in this case, now my final step, I've already identified Minneapolis and St. Paul. Everybody has an address, but I want to send this to companies or individuals. Actually, I'm not going to send it to companies. I'm going to send it to individuals. So I'm going to remove anybody whose first name is null. Because remember, the difference between an individual record and a personal record and an organizational record is an organization does not have a first name. So I am now, from my current selection, I will remove everyone who does not have data in their first name field. And I am going to find, and I have 183 records. Now at any point, I can go to search, current, and I can look at my current selection. Return to list. I can also do that by scrolling to the bottom of my search page and hitting current selection or current search. Here I can see each step. Okay, personal, city begins with Minneapolis. Personal, adding, begins with St. Paul, and that gave me 196 records. Next I'm filtering that address is not null, meaning only people with an address are returned. It's 192. And here I removed anybody without a first name, gives me 183. Now this might be a record. I'm going to do this search a bunch more times, and I don't want to have to run it, recreate it every single time. Especially imagine if this was like a 12, 15, 25, 30 step query. You're like, I don't want to have to go through this every single time because this is a query I run on a quarterly basis. You can save it. If you hit save, it'll give you your query, and you'll be like, oh, quarterly run people in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Allow others to run it, put what folder you want it in, hit save. So now, if I click Save Searches, which I can find by going to Search, Saved, this will bring me all my saved searches. Then I can go down to quarterly run people in MSP, and I can rerun this search. An advantage of having dynamic queries like this is if, for instance, since I ran this last quarter, I now have 24 more names, this number wouldn't be 183, it would be 207 because I now have 24 new names on there that match the existing criteria. When you are saving a query, you are not saving the results of that query. You are saving the criteria to get that selection. Does that make sense? Or any questions about saving and rerunning queries before I move on? Okay, go to return to list. One thing I want to show quickly before I do anything else is that you can customize this page you are looking at by clicking the little icon up in the top right hand corner. Click that. You might be like, I don't care about contributions. I'll pull that out. But I do need to know their city because I'm doing a call list. And I want to be able to drop their city. I don't need to know about their company, but I want their mobile and home phone number so I can give them a call. So this, for instance, you can drag and drop and you can really customize the kind of results that you want. So now, theoretical, I have this list of names. I built a query that gave me individuals who have individuals who live in Minneapolis and St. Paul with addresses, and I'm going to send them a letter. So let's go through very quickly through the steps to do that. First thing I'm going to do is go to communications, and I'm going to print up a mailing label. I can select mailing labels. We use the standard different Avery sizes, whichever one you have on stock. And if it's not Avery, it'll be compatible with one of the Avery. They're the standard templates. Choose the ones you want. You can choose if you want to use salutations instead of the names. There is a fallback on salutation. If, for instance, you have salutation 2, you select salutation 2, but it's unpopulated, it then drops down to salutation 1. If salutation 1 is unpopulated, it drops down to first name. And then you would hit submit and it would send that to your printer. Okay, so now I've printed out my mailing labels. Awesome, it did all the formatting, printed out my mailing labels. Now I have to send them the letters. So the next step would be to download these records as a spreadsheet so you can build a mail merge in using Excel, Google Docs, whichever program you use for that. So I'm going to do a member roster. And there's a whole bunch of different rosters you can do, contact rosters, household reports, fundraising rosters, but I'm going to do the basic one, which is just the personal information. I don't need the member ID, I don't need email. What I actually want to have though is their name, company, largest contribution, and first contribution date. These are the fields I want to have. Scroll down. Oh, I also want these custom ones. Keep scrolling down, find the information I want, and now I can view it on screen, or I can download it as a file. With downloaded files are comma or tab choices, comma or tab delimited data values. Either one is universally openable in or legible, accessible, readable, I can't remember the word. Either one you can use in a spreadsheet program. Excel, OpenOffice Calc, or Google Sheets will be able to read any one of those data files. Right? I am going to hit view on the screen so we'll see everybody who is in there so you can get an idea of that. And this is what it would look like, except it would be a spreadsheet. So when you have a spreadsheet, it's very simple. If you have Excel and Word, if you have Google Docs, it's very easy. If you have OpenOffice, it's very easy to create merge fields. You write up your to do mail merges within those programs. So this is how you can download all that member information and set it up for your mail merge. Okay, so you printed it up. You've got the mailing labels, you slapped them on your envelopes, you printed your mail merge, you've stuffed your envelopes, you had a bunch of volunteers come in, they licked all those envelopes, or hopefully used sponges on said envelopes, dropped them in the mail. Now you need to record that you sent these people a mailing. Now, one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit View Selected. Notice I've been doing all sorts of things in my database. I've been printing things, I've been downloading stuff and doing everything. My member selection has stayed the same. I did a query. The result of that query is my member selection until I do another query. So now I can go back and utilize that selection and record that I sent them all a letter. And I will do that using tag selected. Now, tag selected lets you do a couple of different things. One is add a contact note, which I will demonstrate, and the other I'll just explain, and that is setting a flag. So remember I mentioned how useful flag fields are? Well, you can choose one. I always recommend having one flag field unlabeled to use for temporary markers. For instance, say you're doing a query and then you're like, this mailing actually is going to have about 20 other or 30 other people on it. I'm sending a mailing to a bunch of different groups that the queries kind of conflict. I can't make one query that encompasses all of these people. I have to do it in 3 different queries. So what you would do is the result of one query, and then just put like ML or whatever your initials are in the flag field, update the member records. It will mark all of them with those flag fields, or all their flag files will be ML. Then you run the second query, do the same thing. Third query, tag everybody ML. Then at the end, you do a search for everybody with ML in flag 5, and you now have the result of those 3 distinct queries. So the flags are a way to temporarily tag records really quickly. It's a very useful functionality. Okay, so what I did today though is I sent donation, or yeah, we'll say fundraising letters. So contact by, contact type, fundraising. It was a letter. If this is attached to a fundraising campaign, you can even select the campaign right there, and you will add the contact record. All of these records, as you can see, now have that contact note created. And you do that by going to members, tag selected, and enter a new contact record for all of those. So what I was able to do was today what we demonstrated and we were able to discover how to do is to query by some of the different fields, go through the different options, identify the segment that you are trying to communicate with. We printed out mailing labels. Then going into member roster, we were able to download as a roster report the individual data fields that you wanted from those records to use in a mail merge. And then we went to tag selected and were able to record that we have sent them a letter in the mail. So that brings us to the end of the scheduled webinar today, and we have 4 or 5 minutes that I can answer any questions people have. So if you have any questions, please feel free to speak up, or you can use the chat window. There's a question. When we have training on Power Mail only, we have our upcoming trainings are available. Here, I'm going to go to free training sign up. The upcoming trainings that we have, summertime, we just honestly do not have a lot of attendance to trainings. So we would normally have a lot more trainings. This summer, we're really kind of dialing it back. So there's not going to be as many available. So I do recommend signing up for the ones that you're interested in. There's going to be fewer in a month. And we are going to be doing a little bit of a revamp on some of our training. So there will be more videos on our support center as well, but that's a few months out. The upcoming ones, we have a fundraising basics and reports next week. That's next Tuesday. Next Thursday, we have what's new in your databank, which is basically a brief tour of new features and new improvements that have happened. Most beneficial to people who've been longtime clients, but also new people just to kind of see some of the fun things that we've been working on. We have a Power Mill template design and troubleshooting at the end of June. That does not cover the basics of doing queries and creating an email from scratch. What that's going to be focused on is using the HTML editor to do edits to existing templates, and kind of do more advanced design and layout work. The basics of sending a Power Mail are pretty well covered in our support center in the Power Mail section, the Getting Started with Power Mail. We have some training videos, and the user manual covers it as well. So that'll kind of answer the questions about how to send power mail and how to use the different pieces of it. But this training that we have in 2 weeks is going to be covering layout and design and how to use that HTML editor, and not as much the tool of power mail itself, and more focused on the creating of the individual email. Oh, you're welcome. All right. Doesn't look like there are any more questions. So thank you everybody for making it. I'm glad you were able to attend. There will be an email coming out which will follow up with this with a few resources, and thanking everyone for attending. Have a great day.